Hello, everybody, and welcome to a very special episode of DCP where we have a Monster Hunter edition, and we're joined by two members of the Monster Hunter community team. Joe, would you like to start by introducing yourself? You guys can let us know what you do.
Yeah. My name is Joe Bustos. I'm one of the community managers on the Capcom USA side. I work on Monster Hunter, also worked on other games like Dragon's Dogma. So pleasure to be here. Thanks for having us.
And I'm Jonno. I'm Joe's opposite number, and I'm based in Capcom Europe. And I'm one of the other Monster Hunter community managers and a Sword and Shield main as well.
Joe, what's your main? What's your main
Great
weapon?
sword. Great sword. Yeah.
It's like, yes, tell us your main so we can judge you immediately.
TV, I don't actually know what you play, what your main is.
I went with Great Hammer. I've always been a bonk guy when it comes to games like this. It's just like the bonk big monsters in the head. So that's what I did. I always had the people in the chat come in. They're like, "Oh, when are you gonna move on to something more complex?" I'm like, I'm not a complex person. I like bonk. Bonk make me happy. I bonk.
Yep.
Yep.
Hit him on the head.
Yeah. Hit him on the head. It's easy. It's actually funny. I've been recently learning Charge Blade, and I was watching Eric's video about Charge Blade. And all the comments are like, this video made me pick up a hammer. This video made me realize I'm too stupid. That was really funny. Well, we're going to have quite a few listeners here who are like brand new to Monster Hunter with Wilds, or they maybe checked out a little bit of World, but that was kind of it. So I'm going to start with some kind of newbie questions to see if we can get some questions for people who are wanting to get into Monster Hunter. Actually, I'm more so just wanting to create new addictions to Monster Hunter. So
that's right.
Whatever you guys can do to do that, that's great.
Yeah.
I think it's a great crossover here, DCP doing this, because I actually just recently ran like a poll just for curiosity's sake, what am I going to make content over? And one of the question I asked was, what game as a Destiny gamer are you most interested in picking up and trying in the coming year? And I had a pretty long list, and the winner by a landslide was Monster Hunter. So there's a lot of people who are rooted in the Destiny community, are used to listening to this show, who are really excited about this game. So I think this will be a great entryway for them to sort of learn more about next steps.
Yeah, I've always said it's a really great jump off to Monster Hunter because they like getting loot, they like making builds, it kind of all works together. It's an easy game to get into.
Yeah, definitely. And sorry, Joe, after you.
No, go for it.
Like, you guys know, we're just talking, I used to play a ton of Destiny, still drop in and stuff like that. And your weapon's almost like your class. Like, there's this real big identity, like TV was saying, Hammer uses me with my sword and shield, Joe with the great sword. Miss Watts, we've heard about your bow and things. There's this massive identity. And the players that main these weapons are like, come in, no, my weapon's the best. You need to come join this gang kind of thing. So, no, definitely kind of see the resonance there.
Sure.
Yeah, absolutely. So speaking of new players getting into it, what if you were trying to say anything to convince your friends or someone who's brand new, who's never played Monster Hunter, don't know much about Monster Hunter, and you want them to get into Wilds, what kind of thing would you say to them of why they should come over to Monster Hunter as a brand new player?
It's a tough question. I mean, I think there's a lot of reasons, and that's why it's a tough question.
Yeah.
But ultimately, I mean, it's like, if you like games with really well-designed combat, super deep mechanics that are easy to pick up and that are really deep or that take a while to master, I think that's where Monster Hunter really excels. There's really nothing else like it on the market, I feel like. Monster Hunter is like, it is Monster Hunter. When you describe what it is, it's like the brand name itself is almost the best description of it. So that's what I love about it, is like, if you go to any other games, any other genre, Monster Hunter is like truly unique in that sense.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
like on my side as well, I like boss fights. Like before I really got into Monster Hunter, I played a lot of Devil May Cry and things like that. So I love boss fights, and I'm also a really social gamer. And I like kind of the cooperative thing. You either win together or you can't together. Can't meaning you fail, and I love that. I love kind of improving against these monsters, fighting harder versions of the monsters, getting loot, getting the fashion game, getting my layered gear on to kind of, show what I've been hunting and things. Yeah, I love the social element. And yeah, I love mastering boss fights because basically every hunt is a boss fight.
Yeah.
So question then, do you prioritize the armor that gives you the best perks for what you're doing, or are you like, no, this one just looks way cooler, so I don't care if I'm at a disadvantage wearing it?
So I am in the early mid game till I get to end game. I just slap anything on, and my partner ribs me for it big time because I can look a bit of a mess. But no, once I get that layered armor unlocked, I'm all about fashion. I will chase down a monster for that hat, you know.
Yep.
Yeah. It's funny because Jonno and I have been playing World and Iceborne on stream over the last like few months or so. And we come across those like dilemmas quite a bit. We're just like, I mean, do I really want to look ugly on stream? I mean, not ugly, but you know, like I just like look like all my armor is mishmash. So we try to like have a little bit of consistency.
Sure.
But you know, it's kind of tough when you're just trying to like get through the game. So it's an interesting dilemma.
Yeah, I started again with Return to World. I started playing World again on PC because I'd never switched over before from PS4. And as I was going through, I had to get some of the layered armor from the events like right away, just so I could start mixing and matching some stuff. And that's always the thing that I do. I'm like, okay, we have a build. Now let's spend 40 minutes figuring out what we're gonna look like.
Fashion game is the true end game, you know.
It really is, and it's like that, especially in Monster Hunter. The armor looks so good. There's so many incredible looks you can put together.
All the Monster Hunter like newbies out there. So layered armor's like the transmog, right? Where how you can change how you look, but still get the function of your armor sets, right?
Yep. So yeah, you change how you look. You just use like in-game resources to do that. Like that, you need monster parts to do it, and a bit of Zenny being like the in-game currency you earn when you successfully complete a quest or you sell extra parts and stuff like that. So yeah, it's all part and parcel.
Yeah, I'm feeling Destiny players light up right now going, oh, interesting. They've already got transmog? Do you have to wait 10 years? Really? Interesting.
Especially as you get to the end game and you start putting like your builds together for certain monsters and you're just like, I need to look as good as possible in each of these. So especially like you fight some of the end game monsters, some of them have really cool armor sets. So yeah, can't pass those up.
Nice. Yeah, in World, I think Namiel was my favorite for sure.
Yes, that's exactly what I was thinking about. Man, you're in my mind.
Her armor is so good. There's just so much, and it works well for bow. It's not like the best, but it's like a pretty good bow set. So I was like, I don't care if it's not the best. I'm gonna wear it until I can make the transmog. I mean, I think one of the first pictures I took on PS4. Screenshots was me and my Palico in Namiel gear in front of like a waterfall. It looks so good.
Is there anything you want to tell us more about like the fashion game in Wilds, or you can tell us about that?
I think so far all we've revealed that yes, layered armor is in the game, and that you unlock it as you progress through the story. And that the team will reveal more about that system at a later date. But so far that's it. So yeah. Fashion hunters rejoice.
Yeah. I think we showed a couple of sets so far, like throughout our weapon videos and some of the playable demos at like PAX and Gamescom and stuff. So I really love how the sets look. The Doshagumo one is really good. That some people like. I think if you're playing the demo, you might not even notice that you actually have those in the tent that you can switch over to. So that's been cool to see people kind of mix and match those.
Spend your whole playtime just doing fashion.
I spent a little bit.
No, it's really funny. Like as we're running these demos, right? Like some people are in the tent and they're just spending like forever messing with their fashion, and we're like, guys, you have 30 minutes. You gotta go. Your teammates are waiting for you. Let's go.
I mean, you spend even longer doing it because now you can use the male and female versions of armor. So even if you kind of like the look of Doshagumi, you're like, well, do I want the male head and the female? Oh, the female head? I don't know. I have so many decisions to make. So you're going to take even longer in the tent.
It's funny. We've got my core gaming group. There's a buddy of ours, Chairbeat. And he is that guy who will spend an extra 30 minutes to 45 minutes in character creation. So whenever we play co-op games, we tell him, hey, we're planning on playing at 9. So you need to log in at 8 and get your character made. It's like part of our routine is just letting him know, okay. There are those players that's the thing that they really get into. That's part of what makes the game so enjoyable to them, is really being able to express their own personal identity with their character and have that reflected in their gameplay. So I totally respect that.
for sure.
You know, that's me, because that's why the Dragon's Dogma 2 character creator coming out ahead of time was so
Yeah.
good, because you could just be like, well, I can't play the game, so I'm going to spend 5 hours making my character, and then you end up with a perfect character.
That was such
That's
a
right.
genius move.
It really
so
was.
good.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was really funny. Like as we got like early access to those like character creation tools, and as I was just like going through it and seeing the crazy amount of settings, I'm like, oh man, I'm scared. I'm scared of like what people are gonna do with this thing. Scared and excited, and yeah, there are some pretty good ones. So
there was some scary stuff that came out of Dragon's Dogma too.
Yeah. It's like somebody made Pikachu.
Pikachu was, yep. That was one that I had to show everyone. I'm like, guys, you have to see the Pikachu. It's incredible. So going back to kind of new players, what kind of systems or changes are coming to Wilds to kind of help with the new player onboarding into Monster Hunter?
Yeah, I think something that's really great about Monster Hunter, just kind of like going back to kind of like that new player experience, the ability to like really play through the entire game solo or multiplayer has always been, I think, like a really key part of it. Is like if you choose to, you don't like to play like in a social setting, you can do that too. If you do want to play with your friends, you can play through the whole game basically with your friends. But with Wilds, there are a couple of things that do kind of like enable those like different experiences, whichever way you want to go. So we have support hunters now. So if you want like kind of like a solo but like kind of a multiplayer experience with a little bit more help, you can call in help with the SOS flare, which I really like.
I love that idea. That's so great.
Yeah, and it's pretty funny. Like when you call them in and you fire the SOS flare, and they just like roll up behind you, and like one of them has a heavy bowgun. You just start hearing them like blasting. Like, whoa.
For those fights that go from "I got this" to "I totally don't got this."
Yeah. And Jonno, we actually there's also something like with the weapon system, right? Like to be able to like kind of choose which weapon you want to start with.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, so like the weapons, obviously, as we mentioned earlier, like, it's such a defining part of your hunter. Like, you can use multiple weapons or you can focus on one. And I think the hardest thing when you start Monster Hunter is picking your weapon. And what the game does now with Alma, who's your handler, is when you first start playing, she'll ask you a number of questions. Like, what kind of gamer / play style are you? Basically, do you like hitting hard and slow? Do you like rapid hits? Do you like to keep a distance and things like that? And then the game will actually go, hey, how about you try this weapon? And then you're instantly in kind of like a little training type area where you can start attacking a barrel and it won't attack you back, which is handy. So you can actually try out the weapons and the game will go, hey, maybe this is your kind of play style, because there's 14 weapon types to choose from, and they all play like, and I'm not just saying this because I work on it, they all feel like a different game. Like, I'll play Sword and Shield for ages, and then I'll be like, hey, I'm going to try Switch Axe out. And I did that a lot in Sunbreak or Hunting Horn. And I'm like, okay, I'm kind of starting this from scratch again now. So it's a crazy decision. Like, how was it for you guys when you picked your first weapons?
Oh, I spent like the best part of the stream, I reckon, was me choosing weapons, going, huh? What? Huh? And like working out how to use them and then bring up a guide and then trying again. Like, and just like people's reaction to you trying a new weapon is, like all the different experiences coming through is always fun. So it'd be nice to probably streamline that a little bit, especially because it can be pretty overwhelming if you're like not into that straight away. You might want to get into the action a little bit quicker and like have a little bit of help to be like, do you like punching things like TV? Big bonk Titan, here, have a hammer. Like, that might be nice. But yeah, it's interesting. Cool to have something that helps new players make a decision on like that huge amount of information there.
And this may be something you can't talk about, but do the monsters themselves have any sort of reaction to the way you choose to engage? So if you are like hammer combat, point blank, will they try to keep their distance? Will they recognize that? Or if you're a bow main, are they going to try and close the gap on you? Or is that really not part of it?
I don't believe so. I think they kind of don't necessarily adapt to which weapons you have.
Yeah.
But Jonno, do you happen to know?
Yeah, I mean, we don't have specifics beyond, they won't be like, okay, this is like a bow user, I'm going to focus them or something.
Sure.
But
Feels like it.
there will be ways to like aggro the monster, and I don't know if we'll talk about it a bit later and stuff. But there's like a slinger ammo, so your slinger is like a wrist gun in a nutshell. And there's a type of pod you can get now, which is your ammo, which actually temporarily draws aggro to you. So if you like to play as a tank, so if you're using like a lance or something, or you've got a lot of ranged teammates and you're the only melee user, you can actually temporarily draw aggro.
Sure.
And if you fought the behemoth in the World Final Fantasy collab, you'll be familiar with the red kind of aggro line. So there's a visual indicator as well. So it actually allows the players to more lean into that kind of player fantasy of I'm a knight, I'm going to hold the monster here and keep and things like that. So whilst their monster AI might not necessarily target that way, you can manipulate the monsters yourself now with a few different tools, which is quite fun.
I've noticed in some of the stuff that you guys have shown already for Wilds that consumables are sort of a big part of the game. It's more than just what weapon are you bringing to the fight. I think it was Booth's gameplay in the recent reveal that you guys did, where you cornered this monster, but immediately you're like putting down lures to make sure that the rest of the horde stays away. You get this 1v1, and it's interesting to see how you may have to come to a fight prepared and think about, okay, well, what sort of consumables and craftable items do I need to bring to the table in order to make this fight a little bit easier? Because I think you could get overwhelmed pretty quickly if you're not taking full advantage of the advantages that those items offer.
Yeah. That's always been core to Monster Hunter, and I think that's, again, like another element that makes it unique. And it's also unique among the community, where it's like, take every advantage that you can get over the monster, whether that's items or traps or whatever you're bringing with you, like the things in the environment. Take advantage of them. It's like, you don't necessarily need to go in seeking like a fair 1v1, like I'm gonna like do this like the way that like
no summons, no physics.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's no like, you use flash pods, therefore you cheated. Everyone's like, we are cheating the monster as much as possible.
Yeah.
Will Wilds be a good like kind of jumping off point for somebody brand new to the Monster Hunter series, somebody who's never played? Would you recommend like play some World before Wilds come out, or what would you recommend?
That's a good question.
Yeah, you want to kick this off?
Yeah, I'll have a little bit and then I'll toss it over. But yeah, basically, I mean, I think Monster Hunter as an experience, they're all intrinsically their own experience. So if you've not played the others, you're not missing out on like an overarching story or something that you'd be like, hey, what's going on here? But it's always good to get some practice in. But if you are coming in straight with Wilds, if anything, it might be the best ever Monster Hunter for someone that's never played before. Because as Joe mentioned, with these new systems to help new players and with a big focus on story, especially in Wilds, and given this kind of engaging narrative that it's not just the gameplay you're there for. If you're not fully Monster Hunter, there's a story for you to kind of get on boarded with as well. I think it could be the best, right, Joe?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, we already talked about like some of the things that like make it a little bit more of an easier onboarding experience, but I think the story is one thing that the team really focused on creating kind of a compelling story from start to finish that doesn't necessarily get in the way of that traditional hunting experience. So if you're a new player and you're just looking for a new cool game to play, this is a great game to pick up, and you can run through the story from start to finish, have a really satisfying, great experience, and then there's all of this, the hundreds, thousands of hours that you want to spend on the game that are still there for you in the end game. And I think we know how long Monster Hunter players tend to spend, and they're very proud of their hour counts, which I love to see. It's like, hey, I played 2,000 hours, and I want to show the world that I spent 2,000 hours on it. And also going back to World, you don't necessarily need to play any of the previous games, but World is really great. There's so much content in it, and it's also like super cheap right now, I think. So for anybody that hasn't played it, I think that's definitely a great game to dive into.
Yeah, I think also the Wild's weapons, I kind of describe them as like, it feels like the base feels like World, like the weapons feel like they do in World, but there's a lot of like extra stuff or different stuff layered on top of that. So I think if someone did want to play beforehand, like if you're looking for something to play and you're interested in Wilds, I think World would be a good idea. I think it would work well.
Yeah, and a lot of the core leadership team on Monster Hunter Wilds is coming directly from Monster Hunter World. Tokuda-san, who was the director for that game, he is also the director for Monster Hunter Wild. So you see a lot of that DNA, some of the things that they were exploring in World that are now like with the new generation and a little bit more hardware power and things like that. They've really like kind of taken that to the next level. So I think it's a great starting point, and you can kind of like see how those ideas that were in that game are now carrying over and are evolving.
Yeah, and
Speaking
like,
of evolving,
sorry.
oh, go ahead.
No, after you, good sir.
I was going to say, speaking of evolving, one of the things that jumped out to me pretty quickly were some of the quality of life changes. You know, like as soon as you did enough damage to the boss or to the monster, it immediately like activated the quest that you were on. And even like the red trail behind you, instead of always looking over your shoulder, is that thing still chasing me? Like you now have this red line behind you that's like, oh yeah, he's still on your butt. Like you better keep hauling. So, are there any other like quality of life changes that maybe the team had wanted to have in the previous titles that now you're really proud are in the game and helping the user experience even further?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I mean, a big thing that the team have been talking about is that Monster Hunter Wilds is this seamless experience. So you know that normally in Monster Hunter, you know, you're in your hub area, you gather your crew, you then go to a load-in screen, you arrive and things like that. Whereas in Wilds, you're in this locale, no more load-in screens unless you fast travel. You know, you can go in and out of camp, you can eat, you can go wherever you want in that locale and hunt these monsters, and you're not going to have to, like, you know, when you hunt a monster, you're not sent back to camp. You can stay exactly where you are, hunt other monsters. If you're like, yo, I need a new pair of shoes, I need 5 Doshiguma, you can go back to back to back to back without going back anywhere or seeing a loading screen. Or you can be like, two of you can be like, oh, I'm going to go back to camp, have some food or something. You can also cook wherever you want now as well, pretty much. But, you know, you've got this seamless experience, so you're not bound to a certain action or following what all of your buddies might be doing. And if you're solo as well, you can just go at your own pace. You can call in AI. You can dismiss them. So I think, yeah, the seamless gameplay adds a lot of quality of life to the Monster Hunter experience, kind of just giving you freedom and to enjoy the world that you're kind of in.
Yeah, I like a lot of the changes that they made to the interface too. The first is the 3D map. So when you get into the map, you can kind of like rotate it and turn it around. I think, you know, Monster Hunter World, I think the first area was like notoriously like very vertical. So there's a lot of levels to it.
Joe. Yeah, no doubt.
Because I mean, hundreds of hours in the game, and I'm still getting lost. I think we've gotten lost like on stream recently, where I just like wandered around and Jonno had already like slayed the monster. So, so I love the 3D map. Something that I also love with the inventory now is so when you hold L1 and then you you bring the radial menu up. So typically that's something you can customize. You can still customize your radial menu, but also if you just tilt the right stick to the left, it'll actually heal you with the most optimal healing item that you have on hand. So, you know, if maybe like you ran out of mega potions or something, you only have potions left, or you have something else in your inventory that will heal you to the maximum health, it'll automatically just heal you with that item, so you don't have to dig through your inventory trying to find it. So that can be pretty clutch when you're in danger.
That is so nice. Because I just started playing again, and that's literally what I've been struggling with. It's like scrolling through my thing to find the mulberries.
Yeah. And something else that they've added too that I haven't quite gotten used to, but if you do, I think it's if you hit the touchpad or something, it'll actually like lay out the inventory in a way where like items are like stacked by category, so you can kind of like go through it and then go up, and it'll actually like kind of streamline that selection process for you a little bit. Personally, I haven't quite gotten to the point where I'm like, okay, this is like super clicking for me yet, but you know, spend more time with the game, I think that'll become a little bit more natural.
Yeah, I wanted to know more about that because I saw that there was inventory changes, and I was looking at it, and you've got like a line of stuff, and then you've got like vertical lines for different things, and I was like, okay, I don't really understand what's going on in the playtime that we had, but it seems like it's just supposed to make it a bit more organized and easier to find specific things you're looking for.
Yeah, I mean, if, you know, say you're looking for like, you know, healing items or maybe like utility items or mantles or stuff like that you have on hand. You know, sometimes like when you're just going through the menu, you could just like mashing square or circle, and you're just like, please, let me get to the one that I need, and this will like kind of compartmentalize it for you a little bit. So you're still like kind of going through all the items, but like now you can kind of like, oh, I know this one's in that column, this one's in that column.
Yeah. I really like it for because we're gonna be able to set up camps out in the wild, and that's like in its own kind of section, and you got your binoculars in there and your capture net. So sometimes, I'm running around and I see something I want to capture, and I'm endlessly scrolling trying to get it because I don't have the capture net in a radial menu, which maybe I should.
It's valuable space in the radial menu.
There is, yeah, limited space in there. Yeah, that's really great. That's going to help a lot of people because there is a lot to understand with Monster Hunter, even with just the healing or like removing status effects from yourself. So being able to just select one thing and then it auto selects which one is the best for you is really nice. And it doesn't take away from the preparing part of Monster Hunter either, because you still have to go and get the honey and the herbs and stuff. You're not just going to have it on you. So I think that was a really good change.
Yeah.
I thought it was great. With the questing, Jonno, you mentioned that if you're in a team, you can choose, like some people can choose to stay out in the wild and some people can go back to town. So normally if you're in a group, you're selecting for everyone, whether you go back to HQ and camp. Could you touch on that a little bit?
So we haven't spoken too much about the multiplayer kind of seamless nature beyond kind of like, it's a seamless experience. So I can't go into too much detail than what's already been said. But, say that the whole focus of the game is kind of, a seamless experience for your hunting party, whether you're solo or with friends.
Yeah, no, that's really good because it really does just make it the ease of playing together where it's like, I don't want to go back. And it's like, well, I want to go look at the new armor I just got. Okay. I need to go sit there for, like we were saying, 30 minutes looking at what looks good and what doesn't look good. So that's really nice. It's going to make it so much easier to play together.
You mentioned like cooking with this seamless experience as well. Can you like touch on that a bit, like what that looks like in wilds if you need a bit of a buff while you're on the run?
Yeah, so in wilds, obviously, you can you can cook up a meal at base camp, or using your portable barbecue, you can actually cook anywhere in the hunt, even when you're mid-fighting a monster, if you're brave or foolish enough. And what it does now is it gives you there's danger cooking. You literally have the monster behind you, and your teammates getting flung over a dune or something like that. It's pretty so crazy. And what we've done is the food is actually on a timer now. Rather than like per quest basis. And what ingredients you use in the food is reflected in the cooking animation as well. So it also encourages you to forage and trade with NPCs to get better food ingredients. So if you are into that kind of side of thing as well, there are rewards for kind of exploring and engaging with NPCs. Joe, would you like to chat a bit more about the food?
Yeah, there's a cheesemonger in one of the villages in the
can't wait.
in the Woodward Plains, and you're able to trade with them, and then once people actually see the cheese, they'll be blown away.
Then you'll know. Yeah. You'll understand.
Yeah, you'll understand. Yeah, you'll understand. I love the finishing touches, so you can add like honey or something to the meal, or I forget what the other thing was, but it's like they basically do like the Salt Bay animation where they like sprinkle it over like at the end of the cooking scene. I'm like, oh, that's too good.
Can you cook meals for your party members? Like, could you have a designated cook in your party who's like, I'll get all the ingredients, I'll cook meals for everybody? Can you like trade meals with other people?
Not that I'm aware of.
Yeah, I don't think so. But when you do cook, it should affect everybody. Is that right?
Oh, okay.
No, I think you cook your own meals.
Okay.
So you'll know who's been putting the work in because they'll have the best buffs.
You'll still be able to tell who the cook is. Okay.
Yeah.
I'll just be like, take aggro Watts, take aggro for a second. And just be cheese wheel.
My goal would be to get a so tasty while you're getting flung in the air somewhere. That would be a great clip. With the cookie, you mentioned cheese. This is actually got me really excited, which might sound weird for people who don't know. But we learned that each of the biomes, right? Correct me if I'm wrong, are going to have like their own kind of main town. And then you can set up camps. And from the website, I believe it said that each each kind of village or town is going to be known for their own specialty of something. So the one that we saw in the first area is their specialty is like cheese and dairy and stuff like that. So
Wisconsin?
that's so that got me excited because I'm going to be traveling here to go grab my cheese, and then I'm going to go to this other place and grab what other ingredients that they're specializing in. It sounds really immersive.
Yeah, we haven't shown too much on the second area yet, which is the Scarlet Forest. Yeah. Only like a big nasty spider.
Yeah,
and some red water.
I love her. She's amazing.
I love her as well. Yeah, it's a pretty unique location, so we're looking forward to sharing a little bit more on that in the future. But yeah, stay tuned. Definitely stay tuned.
It's gonna be beautiful, and of course we're gonna experience what the different weather effects of different biomes are eventually, and I'm very excited to see what the Scarlet Forest will be.
I don't know if you can explain this or not, but with it being quite seamless, what happens if you're being pursued by like monsters and you head back to like a town? Do they enter the town?
Ask if you can kill the local people.
I've not tried that myself yet, but I have managed to destroy one of my team's camps in a multiplayer session at Gamescom. So the camps that you build out in the field can be destroyed, including when you're in it as well. So you don't get to like invulnerability cheese or anything like that. So you can become your favorite person in the hunting party if you lure like a Balahara over to where someone's in camp, like sorting out their gear, and they just smash it down and destroy it. So yeah, you do need to think where you take the monster, especially if you got some like important structures nearby.
Someone just sitting in their tent, just chilling out.
It's gonna happen. I can see it already.
What's that noise?
Having a nice conversation with their palico. All of a sudden,
just petting your palico. You're like, this is great.
That's cool.
Yeah, I'm really excited for that. I think when we first learned the name of Monster Hunter Wilds, I was like, I really hope they do some kind of setting up your own camp stuff, because it just makes so much sense with the theme. And I'm really glad that it ended up being like that. To talk a little bit more about questing, we did get to see in one of the Gamescom live streams that there's something called an environmental overview. And there's a lot of information that you can get from that for like scrolling through the environmental overview. Could you kind of delve into the environmental overview a little bit and what kind of information you can gather from that?
Yeah, Jonno, you might be a little bit more familiar with this, but it's essentially like a weather forecast, right? So it kind of like shows you how the different seasons in the game are going to change, and the monster behavior is different. The different monsters that are on the field are actually different during those phases. I think we've already talked about how Raydal, which is the apex of the first area, the Windward Plains, shows up during the inclemency of the area, which is like big ecological event where crazy stuff starts happening. There's lightning coming down, the weather becomes all dark and things like that. So that's like one example of how that might work. But monsters get they have different behavior during the fallow period. That's like kind of like the time where it's like really dry and like all the monsters become super desperate. The herds start going crazy because they're just like, what am I supposed to do in this? It's not good right now. So I love that. It's like, it helps it feel like a really like real world that feels very dynamic and alive. It also helps you like plan a little bit too. If you're like that kind of person who wants to like, figure out exactly what you're doing, how to plan for the hunt, or what monsters you actually want to go for. This helps you like kind of see that a little bit more like discreetly rather than feeling like kind of random.
Yeah, definitely. Like the team are really going for this live and breathe in world, like Joe mentioned. And as he said, during the fallow period, like real life, when resources are scarce, animals, especially predators, get more aggressive. So, you can expect more of a, slightly more of a challenge there compared to like the plentiful period. And then inclemency is like when things get really wild, like excuse the pun. And for those that aren't familiar with Monster Hunter, like an apex monster is kind of like the boss of the area, if that makes sense, and you'll know when it will appear because it will be during the inclemency period. So if you're really looking for a challenge, that's when this monster is going to show itself. So you can plan around that. But it's the same. You can bring up this chart. You can see when the different kind of environmental periods are going to be around, what monsters are predicted to be there. So if you're whether you're playing solo or with your buddies, you're like, I want to farm in session for these monsters. How do we want to plan the session? Okay, well, we'll hunt 3 monsters, go back to camp. In that time, it will go into inclemency. We'll come back with some different gear to go after Raidao, and then once we've got that, we'll go back and, so it allows you to plan out your gaming session if you want to, or you can just ignore it and be surprised by whatever happens.
I gotta ask about, with it being a weather forecast, will it be as unpredictable as real life weather forecast? Will you look at it and it's like, it's gonna be the inclemency in 5 minutes, and you're like, no, it's not.
Will the weatherman lie to us?
Just add that like 5% chance of error or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be really funny. Like, where's Balahara? He's not here. Huh? He's supposed to be here 5 minutes ago. I love that.
Do we have a like general time period, like with how like real world time versus like in-game time? Like, are you gonna be waiting an hour to change through like those different not seasons, what do you call them? Like different time periods, weather system. What's it called? Weather, yeah. Or like, can you speed up time, or you have to really plan the whole kind of weather forecast about what you want to hunt?
Yeah, I think we don't know like exact times on how long each one lasts, but what we have seen in the demos that we've shown already is that it actually does tend to change like fairly quickly. Like in the middle of a hunt, you could actually experience all 3. That might necessarily be the case for the rest of the game, but in terms of what we've shown so far, you could realistically see all 3 of those phases in the middle of like a 20 or 30-minute hunt. But some people are going to be really fast with the hunts, especially as like they get their own hands on the game, and we get the really experienced players who are like, I did that thing in 10 minutes or 5 minutes. They'll only see maybe one phase.
Yeah, okay. So I won't be there. I'll be like, I experienced every weather forecast
5 times over.
5 times,
yeah.
Yeah, it keeps it nice and dynamic. So it's not like, like Joe said, it's not 15 minutes, 15 minutes, 15 minutes. It does shift around and things like
that's
that.
Good.
Because like at Gamescom, where people going, so when does the inclemency period come in? Want to go get Ray down? I was like, could be 5 minutes, could be 20 minutes. Like, I hope you're fast if it's a bit later, kind of thing. So it does give that, once again, it's more natural, organic feeling rather than like, oh right, well it's about to get stormy again. Like,
right. So it is like the weatherman.
Yeah, you just shuffle around.
I really like that, because you wouldn't want it to be like it's set things, because that would kind of make it feel gamey and take away from the immersion.
Break your immersion.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then the Palico yells, "Oh, the weather!"
I love that. I know some people are like, they don't want their Palico speaking English, but I've loved hearing the Palico kind of trash talk the monsters when I was playing. He's like, "Hey, ugly! Look at me!" I'm like, "Oh."
Oh, you're talking about monster. Oh, okay.
Who, me?
You can turn it off though, too, right? You can have them just.
Yeah.
Can you modify your Palico's sort of personality? Can they be more timid or more brash, more sarcastic and witty, or are they just sort of they are what they are? They're all sort of like that.
Yeah, I don't think we're talking too much about customization for the Palico yet. We do have some preset builds in the demos that we've shown, and there's some fun like looks to them.
Mustache cat.
I think there's one that's like the canon Palico, but we won't get into that.
The canon Palico. Yeah, it was on I think it was the Eric stream where they were really pointed out the mustache cat, because he was just sitting there with his shifty eyes too, looking around. I was like, that is amazing. That's a great reaction picture. You did mention that so monsters' behaviors change in the different periods of weather, which is really interesting. I assume there's also different materials that you can get in the wilderness depending on the weather.
You want to take this one, John?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. So different endemic life will appear. So whether that's for collection or purely if you want to just go and see like, I still can't pronounce the baby puke official name. Amstrigian, for example, and things like that. And the endemic life is way more proactive than what you've seen in Wilds. So, the small monsters will physically fight large monsters. They'll engage with each other. So, for example, during one of the streams at Gamescom, we just finished the hunt, and this kind of crocodile-like endemic life ran up and actually snatched a baby herbivore monster from a pack and ran away with it and things. So yeah, depending on what kind of environment you're in at the time, it would change what appears, what materials are available. Will things like vigor wasps be more pronounced, so there'll be more healing around, which then benefits you? Or do you opt to hunt in a more harsh environment? You're in the fallow where there'll be less vigor wasps around, and things like that. So it does affect the kind of active gameplay as well as your kind of collection and kind of passive gameplay.
No, that's really interesting.
Did anybody save the baby?
No, that got dragged into the river. That was gone. I only saw it in the playback because I was so like fixated on the monster on Doshiguma, and then like I think the Reddit community were like, "Yo, check this out," and I was like, "Oh man, oh, I missed that.
Oops,
my bad."
Sorry. You guys have. No, go ahead, Joe.
The monster behavior in like the weather and the different phases is kind of interesting. Like some things I've noticed. Like I think you've already seen like the Balahara have that like sand pit that will like get all the monsters that are passing through. And that's a really easy way to like kind of separate the herds out that are maybe like if you're getting chased by like 3 Doshiguma or whatever, and you just want to get the alpha, that's the best or a good way to kind of like separate it out. But something else I noticed was after completing a hunt and then the weather kind of changed back to the plenty period, which is like nice and bright and the sun's out and everybody's happy. I just see a Chanakabra. He's kind of just like walking over to the water. He's like, I'm going to have a sip of water. I'm like, oh, nope. So it's, yeah, you kind of notice like things like that with just the behavior. Like they might be like a little bit more docile or peaceful, or if it's during the fallow period, they're like very aggressive and the behavior is like a little bit more like on guard. So that's interesting to see.
And so like you could use that to your advantage by some way setting them up to like fight each other, or can you speak to that at all?
Yeah, something we actually did, I think it was in our PAX playthrough, we typically wouldn't do this because it takes kind of a while, but we actually like used a luring pod to bring the Doshiguma all the way to like the other side of the map where Ray Dao was waiting, the apex. So we could have them fight together.
That's cool.
Or fight each other. So yeah, you can actually like do that sort of thing and have them like just meet on the other side of the map. So I like doing stuff like that and see what happens. So.
Betting ring about monster fights in the wilds.
That's actually like a full genre of YouTube content these days, where people will mod games and put bosses to fight each other to see who will win.
I'm waiting for the videos. Like I completed Monster Hunter Wild without swinging the weapon once, and it's just like luring every monster to an area to fight each other.
Yeah, it's like those videos with like, 1 Radon versus like 30 whatever. I've seen those things.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool.
You guys mentioned that, so the fallow period, the monsters get more angry and you have less like healing items around. Is there a benefit to you if you want to take on a monster during that period? Like, are you going to get maybe different rewards from a monster or something like that?
So one thing that I think we talked about a little bit is like how there may be like a more difficult version of a monster that could appear during different periods. Right. I don't think we have like any discrete like, oh, this appears during this time or this appears during that time, but they might have a different star rating, and that means they'll have a different set of rewards. So I think like at this point we haven't really like said exactly how that might work or exactly what I guess like conditions will determine what kind of quest appears, but that's something that could maybe encourage you to take on a monster during a specific time period, based on like whatever rewards they might have on hand.
And also as well, the large monsters might be more aggressive, but so are the small monsters. So, if you're looking for more environmental assistance, you're going to get more backup from small monsters as well in some cases. Like I think you might have seen like Chatacabra being attacked by small raptor-like monsters.
He's
in
attacked
some
by
of the things.
everything.
Yeah, everyone likes to dunk on Chatacabra.
Yeah, like 2 straight weeks of weapon videos, and the poor guy.
You just see the picture of him like falling back with his legs wide open. It's very inducing, Chatacabra.
Yeah, it's very goofy.
Yeah, he's great. Yeah, no, that's good to know. So I could be like, it's going to be the follow. I'm going to wait and see what kind of star rating monsters are around and kind of choose that. There's going to be a lot of different things you're choosing about when you're questing, which is really, I'm really excited because I love the guiding lands in World, and this feels like guiding lands, but like the video game.
Yeah, I think Monster Hunter in the past has felt, I mean, it's been like more like discrete, right? Like you go into a menu and you take on the specific optional quest or investigation. I think the goal, like Jonno was talking about with using the word seamless, is like trying to make that feel very seamless, where you're spending like less time going through like menus where you're doing exactly like that same quest again, and trying to make things feel like more alive and things are more dynamic. Maybe you go into an area and you're not quite sure like exactly what quests are going to be there, and that's what makes it like feel a little bit more of like kind of a living and more dynamic game.
Yeah, we've seen that there's a couple different ways to kind of do quests now. It's not just you go to a quest board, you accept a quest, or you can go on an expedition, which isn't really a quest. But we saw that you can speak to Alma whenever, like even in the wild, you can go up to her and kind of get a quest from her. I think it wasn't working in the build, but I think someone mentioned it on the one of the streams.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead, please.
No, you're absolutely right. Yeah, you've definitely been paying attention to the streams. Yeah, because we were going to speak to Alma, but it wasn't active in the kind of preview demo build at the event. But yeah, so you do have the more traditional. If you're like, I want to hunt this monster, I want to hunt it now. I want to go get a quest from Alma and then activate the quest. Or if you want a more dynamic, chill experience, or you've just finished a quest and you see another monster you happen to fancy carving up, you can then start bashing on it and start a quest that way. So the good thing is this new system hasn't come at the expense of the traditional system. They're both in play. So you can basically kind of like play how you prefer. If you want a focused experience, go for it. If you want a more dynamic experience, also go for it. And you can mix them up as well. So
Yeah.
You can just only have one quest active at a time though. So
Yeah, I really like that because I know it's good and bad because it's gonna take me probably triple the amount of time to finish the story of Wilds because I'm gonna be like, well, there's a Balahar, I gotta go hunt it over there, and then there's Ray Dow, I gotta go do that.
It can't be helped.
I'm gonna be
What am
there
I
forever.
supposed to do?
I can't. It's the rules. See monster, hunt monster. I don't have a choice.
I don't make the rules. I just mark it.
Yeah,
I like it. You go on your first quest and come back like level 100 or whatever.
Yeah, fully decked out. Yeah. So you said you're going out for one quest. Where have you been? It's been 6 hours.
So I wanted to jump in a little bit with kind of hunting. So moving to like focus mode and wounds and all that stuff. Could you guys explain focus mode for people who don't know about it and kind of delve into that a little bit?
Yeah, I can kick it off. Yeah, so focus mode is basically it's a new mechanic that allows you to basically kind of like aim your attacks. So if you hold left trigger, it brings up a reticle. You can kind of turn and basically aim your attacks, which you couldn't do in Monster Hunter before. Like if you're charging your greatsword or something, you can turn a little bit, but you couldn't like turn like all the way like around and really aim your attacks. So it's always been like kind of a meme to just like constantly whiff on your greatsword, which
it's just a joke, right, Joe? When you miss your greatsword attacks, yeah.
No, I'll do it on purpose. I'm trying to show a realistic gameplay experience. But now, yeah, you can aim those attacks, which it applies to every weapon. So whether you're using Jonno's main sword and shield, or like the hammer, for instance, like if you really want, like hammer players really want to stay focused on the head. So now you can aim those attacks. You're able to use focus mode to do that. And there's a bunch of other stuff that is included in that mechanic. I don't know if you want to dive into that, Jonno.
Yeah, sure. So on top of what Joe mentioned as well, obviously a big part is focus strike, which is a really flashy way to do a big attack on a monster to break what is a wound. So if you played World, you'll be familiar with the tenderizing system, which is very intentional. You use your clutch claw, you jump on the monster, you do a type of attack, which tenderizes that point, you can do more damage to it. In Wilds, that process is much more organic. If you continually attack, or as you attack the monster throughout a fight, a certain body part or area of it, you'll eventually create a wound. So you don't have to intentionally be like, right, I need to clutch claw on or anything like that. As you fight organically, you'll create these wounds. You can attack them normally and you'll do increased damage for a while until the area breaks. But if you hold focus mode and then press a certain button, you'll do a focus strike, which is a really cool, you've probably seen them, flashy attack. Some weapons have multiple, like the sword and shield has two different ones you can do. And then you'll break the wound, do big damage, and get a monster drop. So it's got like a more passive application and a very active application. And I think what's interesting is when we first revealed it, a lot of people were like, "Oh, easy mode's coming to Monster Hunter," and because they'd seen like a very surface level description, and people see some things in a game and they're worried that it's being dumbed down and things, but what focus mode is, speaking as someone who is a sweaty gamer, like it's got an application for new players and an application for experienced players. So for new players, absolutely, it's a great way to help them settle into certain weapons, hit the target, get that satisfaction, and learn the weapons even easier. And then for us at a higher like experience level, you're repositioning slightly and things like that, and you're kind of preempting the monster. So I think it's this great tool that absolutely helps new players settle in and especially get used to some of the more challenging, slower weapons like the greatsword, which I'm terrible with. So but also for experienced players, you can take the skill ceiling is increased. It's not brought anything down. And once again, you don't have to use it. But, you literally just hold left trigger and it's there or it's not there. And if you only use it for focus strikes, if you want to do them, just tap it and off you go. So it's there if you want to use it all the time. There if you're just like me who uses it more for focus strikes, or you can use it tons because it helps you be a better hunter.
Yeah, when I was using bow, I'm like, I am always in focus mode because I'm aiming with left trigger.
Yeah, you're like, this is not new. I'm always aiming.
Well, yeah, because I only watched Watts' video, so I thought this was only like a ranged thing.
Yeah.
I'm like, wow, you can aim the melee weapons. Okay, cool.
Yeah, I think with focus mode, what I really like is this new loop of like, you hold left trigger and you see all those wounds highlighted, and I think maybe it's like it goes without saying, but it is super fun to destroy the wounds. Like you just hit R1 when you're close to it and they do like a special attack. It's super flashy, really satisfying. You get the notification on screen that says like the wound's destroyed, and it feels good. It's a really fun gameplay loop. And I think like once people get their own hands on it, like it'll really click for them. So I personally really like it. If you're a hammer user, it gives you actually a reason to not just be at the monster's head all the time, which is very different. So yeah, I like it.
I don't know if you can answer this, but does it combo into your like other move sets? Like, is there different ways you apply it, or is it almost the same each time?
I think it kind of depends on the weapon, right? So, like greatsword, for instance, like with focus mode, you can actually like use different attacks. So aside from your focus strike, you can still use your true charge slash, which is like your big charge move with focus mode. So you still have like that part of your kit in there. But then there's also the offset strike, which you can use either in focus mode or not. This is actually like another like charge uppercut attack that like if you hit it the same time, not every time, but if you hit it the same time that the monster is attacking you, it's kind of like a counter where you'll clash and they'll like get staggered back, and then you'll follow up with another attack.
So like when you activate your focus mode in your combos, like makes a difference.
Yeah, and I think it's very seamless. Man, I'm sorry for like saying that word. I swear I'm not just like taking like notes from the marketing playbook.
right.
But I think like as more people get their hands on it and like kind of incorporate it into like that classic Monster Hunter feel, it'll become like a very natural part of the gameplay. And I think right now, because the game is like new and people like have limited time with it, so when they're playing, they they're trying to play like classic Monster Hunter and haven't like quite figured out how to really incorporate that part of it yet. It'll become, I think, more natural for people over time.
I'm really excited about that. Like, I actually didn't know about this part of the game, so it's like, as a newish player, that sounds really cool.
Yeah, I'd say I liked it. Anything new can always be a bit like alien. But yeah, at first I was like, oh, I can reposition my weapon. And then I'm like, whoa, I can do some really interesting stuff here. But yeah, so like, especially someone who personally, I'm not very good with slow weapons. I like fast weapons. For me, playing around with it when I was like trying like the hunting horn and things, I was like, this is great. I can actually hit where I want to and things like that. And even with the sword and shield, when the tail's a bit out of reach, I can kind of aim up a bit and be like, right, I'm gonna get it. So yeah, I think it's great how they made this. Yeah, it benefits new players and it benefits experienced players. And say, well, you can just be like, nah, don't want to use it. Let someone else do it.
Which they'll probably be happy about because they get to do their flashy move and get all the wounds
especially
destroyed.
dual blades. Yeah.
Oh
yeah, the dual blades ones are really good. It's like, I don't even know what to call it.
Lots
Attack
of sitting.
Yeah,
it's Attack on Toshiguma.
I didn't want to say the name of it, so I held my tongue.
It is. It's very, very Attack on Titan. So we're talking about wounds. This is something that I was just curious about that I don't know if you guys can answer, but if you're fighting like a horned monster in World and previous Monster Hunters, if you break the horn, it now takes like more damage. It's a kind of like a crit spot. Is with the new system, is that, I assume it's not a wound that's always open because that sounds OP. But how does that fit into the whole new wounding system?
So in regards to the wounds themselves, so once you make them, you can either damage them over time or kind of instantly pop them, which will cause them to scar over and they're no longer a wound area. So they are like a kind of limited resource to exploit in most cases. Doshiguma is an exception on that one. Breaking a wound also doesn't necessarily correspond with like a part break, like a tail cut, for example. You can wound and break a wound on a tail and not necessarily cut it. I've not, experienced a horn type situation in
we haven't
Wilds.
seen horns yet.
But with tails, I could talk about tails. The other end of the monster. So wounds and part breaks aren't intrinsically linked, but there is some crossover at times depending on which bit of the monster. But yeah, they're not something that once you've made the wound, you're like, right, everyone all in DPS phase, put the well down and like kind of go for it. No, it's very much, it's a limited resource. And yeah, so you can choose to pop it straight away, get that burst of damage, or kind of eke it out and kind of go more of a slow burn with the wound being there.
Will they still be able to attack you with their tail if it's wounded?
Yeah.
Gotta get it off.
You gotta cut it off.
You gotta cut it off. Yeah, if it's wounded, it's more like you'll physically see it as well. You don't have to use focus mode. The monster's wound will physically show. And also once you've destroyed it, you will see it kind of scab and then scar over as well if the monster's living long enough. But yeah, it's still equally dangerous. Yeah, that is. Yeah, I mean, traditionally, once you break apart, that monster is physically changed in that area. Like if you break its head, its horns come off or something. But in Wilds with the monsters, once you wound it and then destroy it, over the passage of time, it will scab over while you're fighting the monster.
That's crazy. That's cool.
It is crazy.
Sort of
everything
really cool
so
visual
many small
feedback.
details.
Yeah.
Yeah, like you can now climb on the monsters as well once you've beaten them and carved them like that. You don't phase into them anymore.
Yes. Pose on top of them.
Yeah.
Take a picture after every hunt, every new monster hunt.
This feels mean. Like the first time I did it, it's like, am I being disrespectful?
Are we the bad guys?
It's like those pictures you see of guys next to the lion they killed, and you're like, that's wrong. And then here's me in the wilds, like, yeah.
It's like, oh, got him.
Is certain weapons like monsters, or certain weapon types like make wounds easier on certain monster types? Like, is there synergy between picking a certain weapon type to make wounds easier, or is it just more monster dependent?
from what my understanding is, there isn't like certain weapons are better at making wounds. I think the way the wound system works is once a certain damage threshold is hit in that part of the monster, then a wound is generated. So, obviously some heavier hitting weapons can do it in less hits, like the greatsword, whereas the dual blades might take physically more hits, but it's the same kind of damage threshold. So my understanding is that's how it works, right, Joe? I think I'm on it there.
I think you're saying it's all skill level.
That's what I'm hearing.
Yeah, but it's a good question because, for example, blunt weapons like the hammer and hunting horn are better at breaking horns. They're better at part breaking. They build stun and exhaust in Monster Hunter World, and obviously blunt damage is still really important for stun in wilds, whereas you need cutting damage to like cut off a tail. So it's a really good question actually, because there are these distinctions between what weapon you use and their benefits in a hunt.
Yeah, so it's quite different from the breaking, like the breakable part system, right? Like it's its own wound is a different system, whereas you've got some of those things coming over from World, where the blunt damage or cutting off tails.
Yeah, they're like kind of parallel alongside each other. But if you're making a lot of wounds on a certain part, you're moving in the right direction to properly break it or cut it off.
Break it. Yeah.
Yeah, that got me really excited because using bow, when I want a tail, it's a whole adventure. It's like the whole hunt is me shooting the tail because I have to do like I have to use Dragon Piercer, or I have to like jump at them with the arrow trying to cut it off. So that was really nice because the bow has the tracking arrow, so I can just put that in the tail and like Dragon Pierce over and over again.
That's a good shout. Yeah. When me and Joe first saw the tracking arrow, we were like, "Whoa!"
Everyone was like, excuse me, Capcom, what is going on?"
Yeah, I think we knew that the bow was the last one, right? I think it ended up being the second to last one. And I think we saw your post where you're like, "Oh, where's the bow? I'm waiting for the bow. I hope I wake up today and it's the bow." And we're just like, "Oh, she's gonna be waiting a while."
It's gonna be a while.
Or once.
That was an adventure, yeah. Because even though I didn't want to watch the bow stuff before I streamed because I want to watch it with the community for a first reaction. But I swear every time at like 1 a.m. I'd wake up and I'd be like, "Don't look at it. If I look at it, I'm not gonna go back to sleep. But if I don't look at it, I also can't sleep because I don't know which weapon it is." You touched on like Doshiguma having a special enrage mechanic where he opens up his wounds. That's really cool because he's like playing into the new system. So he's like, if people don't know what enrage is in Monster Hunter, it's where the monster's really angry. It's really, really angry. And they're going to be like a little bit more aggressive, and they're going to be kind of nonstop trying to hit you. And so Doshiguma like gets really big and opens up all his wounds. So he's more dangerous, but you do more damage to him, right? Because you have all those wounds available again.
Yeah. I think that's why it's a great early game monster, because it really highlights that mechanic. It literally highlights that mechanic. And yeah, it's super satisfying. Like you see all the wounds again, you're like, "Oh well, I know it's angry and enraged, but it's also like, oh, it's time. It's time. Focus strikes nonstop." So yeah, it's cool that it has that unique mechanic. And I think there's one other monster, right, Jonno, that at least that we've shown so far that has like a similar, or not similar, but like a unique type of behavior.
Yeah, so as you will all know, you're hunters yourselves. Like when the monster's nearly dead, you're in a position of strength. It goes back to its nest, goes to sleep. You get to give it a rude awakening and things like that. Whereas, as you mentioned with Doshiguma, it gets more dangerous, but also more vulnerable. And actually, Ray Dow has a very interesting mechanic around that. So when you do force it back to its nest, it kind of gets a home turf advantage because its nest is actually in this big crystalline cave that conducts lightning damage, and obviously as a lightning monster, so it can electrify the floor, and its attacks get more AoE in its nest. So some monsters will have scenarios where when you think you're about to finish and you've got the upper hand, the monster can actually flip it over, and now you're where it wants you to. It's where you are where the monster wants you to be to give you a good whooping. So yeah, it's great because it kind of breaks the kind of tradition of Monster Hunter where you're like, right, let's wrap this up, boys and girls, then we'll go back to camp.
Yeah.
Interesting.
That's
hunter becomes a hunted.
Exactly. Yeah. There's that last stand kind of bit where it's like, right, okay, either monster's going down or we're gonna fail the quest kind of deal, which is a ton of fun.
was fun to see it at PAX with people only had a limited amount of time, and they would go after Ray Dow, and then they get to that final area and they think they finally got it, and then they're like fighting against the time and how many feints that they have, and then maybe they might not quite get it, and it's just a nice little twist to see at the end of the hunt.
That's cool.
It's very scary. It kind of it's not as bad, but it reminds me of when you're fighting Nergigante and he goes back to his lair and you're like, he's just gonna dive attack me over and over. I'm done for. You spend most of that hunt jumping constantly.
Yeah, such a small area as well. It's like, oh no, I'm not trapped in here with you.
Yeah, a lot of people had their hunts fail, even if they've got no feints up until then. Like he really starts pulling the punches there, which makes me very scared for the later monsters in Wilds if they have obviously those behaviors because they're fighting at the end of their life for their life, and then they also have whatever mechanic in their lair. It's going to be scary.
We shall see.
I wanted to touch on mounting a little bit because in every Monster Hunter game, it's like mounting's different. What are we doing this time with mounting? Could you talk about how mounting kind of works in Wilds?
Yeah, it's quite similar to Monster Hunter World, but now with the wounding system, there is a little bit of a twist. So I know with World, you kind of see on your controls, right? In the top right corner, it would actually tell you when to brace and things like that. Now the the interface is a little bit more it's kind of based on a vignette around the screen, so it'll kind of tell you when you need to either change position or to brace. And so now there's two ways. Once you actually have mounted the monster, you can kind of just keep hitting attack, and then eventually it'll go down. But if you do manage to wound it, then you can use the I believe it's called it's a finisher, right? I can't remember the exact name of it. But that'll do a big fancy attack specific to your weapon and then bring the monster down. But I think John, you mentioned that there's depending on which way you do it, it'll actually keep the monster down for longer. Is that right?
Yeah, I believe that if you go the traditional mounted method, so you keep using your hunter's knife to stab the monster, and I think it feels like it goes down. It could be anecdotal, but in my experience, it kind of goes down for longer because you've done less damage on the monster, so you get a bigger damage window there. But if you choose to wound the monster, which happens a lot earlier in the mount, and then use a mounted finisher to take it down, you do a burst of damage then, but in my experience, it recovered quicker. So I think it's a nice way. So if you're playing solo or you just want to knock the monster down, you can do the mounted finisher. But if you want to kind of take advantage of it and the risk of getting knocked off by going for the longer mount, then you can take that option as well. So you've got a bit more freedom on how you tackle that part of the game as well. Or you can just make a ton of wounds on the monster as well, keep jumping over it, make another wound, another wound, and kind of bank it for later.
I'm gonna try and stay on as long. I'm gonna try and stay on as long as possible, and then run out of stamina and fall off and not get to do my cool finisher move.
All part of the plan.
I could be wrong, but I feel like in some of the gameplay you showed, there was a moment where you went from being mounted on your mount to launching off of your mount and mounting the monster. That's the thing, right? It's seamless mounting from mount to mount.
Yeah. So oh, sorry, Joe. Yeah, after you.
The seamless word.
Yeah. No, thank you. I appreciate it. A gold star's coming your way. Yeah. So the way you mount monsters in Monster Hunter is traditionally you aerial attacks and certain other attacks build mount. Like a mount threshold. And obviously in Wilds, as you saw, a great way to do that is to jump off of your mount, do a big aerial attack and hit the monster. And the first time you go for a mount, the threshold's not that high normally. So yeah, you can literally jump off your sacred mount onto the monster and go straight into a mount animation. So they literally drive by mount.
Well,
I think it's
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I think it's a good opener. Usually, if it's not your first, or you've already started the quest and maybe the monster moved to a different area, I think it's a good way to kind of start out that second part of the hunt, or maybe when it's a little bit weaker. But yeah, I love that. I mean, if you play Monster Hunter Rise, I know a lot of people are kind of familiar with the mount, the Palamute in Rise, and now you have the Sacred, but the Sacred is it's a little bit taller, it kind of feels like, so sometimes it feels like you get a little bit just that extra inch of height. So yeah.
I feel like so many of these things are really cool for new players because like there are a lot of the experiences I have as someone like playing well for the first time, like walking slowly to the monster, like what is going on? Like, to have like that, like you say, that entry point is like a nice way to get straight into it and like start understanding some of the mechanics and like be in the right spot before just getting slammed by the monster while you like walk slowly towards them.
Yeah, and like
with the weapon out.
Like what the team have done as well. So as Joe mentioned earlier, we're terrible for getting lost in the ancient forest. We've been playing hundreds of hours, many years, and we still get lost. So with Sacred, when you're riding it, you can instantly swap between manual and automatic, like a car almost. So you can tag monsters or even specific points on the map. Like you can just put a point on the map, and Sacred will actually travel there for you. And at any moment, you can switch out. Yeah, you can switch out and back in of manual and automatic, which is great. Yeah, because I'm geographically challenged when it comes to taller maps. So
that's so cool.
Yeah, I definitely am as well. Like I said, I was playing yesterday, and I think for some reason, Pickle, he decided to go to Rathalos's nest. And I was like, I wasn't expecting him to do that. So I was lost trying to figure out where he went. I'm glad you brought up mounting damage because that's something that I think a few people have been curious about is if like that works the same. Because that's kind of something we've been used to, you know, you ramp up your mounting damage and then you get a mount, but it's nice to have the clarification that that is how it works. I will be spamming jumping off of Sacred with a bow because we don't have like the jump forward like stab with the arrow move anymore because that's a different move, which looks cooler. It's a lot cooler. So I will be jumping off of Sacred over and over again, trying to mount.
Yeah, the ranged weapons have really cool mount finishes as well because I guess it's harder to get the mount on a ranged weapon. So they do look really, really flashy.
Well, you will catch me doing that if you're in multiplayer with me. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about me constantly jumping. There was some kind of questions that were a little cheekier about like palicos. Like I want to know your favorite palico because you can't answer about the voice options and stuff. But who is your favorite palico from the Gamescom build? Did you have one you ended up settling into? Yeah,
I think I said it was the Canon palico. It's the long haired one that's like it has like long white hair. That's the one. For me, it's like the Gandalf palico. I don't know.
See, for me, I have a tortoise shell cat in real life, so it's got to be the torty kind of palico for me. I'm sentimental like that.
Oh yeah, I make I have a ginger cat, so I make my cat is the name, the palico is Belias because it's a mixture of my two cats' names into one, and they're both ginger. So that's what I end up doing. I'll also be in palico creation for a very long time.
I think I spend more time on the palico than I do on the character.
Yeah, I can sympathize with that. Yeah, I'm like blue hair. Yeah, that's fine. Off I go. Right, palico.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up blue hair because in WoW's content character creation, you're going to be able to have two different hair colors. So you can kind of mix and match that. We got to see in the Gamescom build that there's a pre-made character that has like black hair with like purple underneath it.
Yeah, it was great to see the devs put like sneaky little bits in there for folks to pick up on, and also the hair physics. And there was a beard as well,
goodness.
Like a full-on beard.
There is a beard,
yeah. Full-on beard, like which I think is a first because normally, obviously, because of engines and stuff, they're smaller. But now, you know,
That's funny you said beards, and Mylan and Briar instantly sat forward.
Excuse me.
When we had just we had Eric's was a part of the podcast for a while, and we had three very bearded men who were like, "When am I getting a beard, a full beard in Monster Hunter?"
Now we know 2025.
Yeah, even in the presets that we've shown. No. Stick around to the end. No, I'm just kidding.
That's good. That's good. Yeah.
Yeah. Even in the preset characters that we've shown so far, it's like I think the quality of like the characters look really good. And that's, you know, you saw that in Dragon's Dogma also. It's like the quality of like the faces in the RE engine is just, it's something that I think is so really impressive. So like characters that you would imagine are like main characters in another game, they like that's the quality that they look like, which is I think is really great. And they're custom characters, so yeah, I'm excited to see what people come up with.
It's amazing how versatile that RE engine is.
Yeah,
all these different games coming out, just looking fantastic.
Yeah.
It's a magic engine. I don't know what they did with it, but
it probably is magic. We should be
some
suspicious.
voodoo in there. I don't know.
Aliens. I suspect aliens.
Yeah, one of these days they'll slip up and be like, "Yeah, so our witches, our game devs were."
The hair physics is one of the first thing that I noticed in one of the early trailers, because there wasn't like too much to go on with early trailers, but the hair on the female character that was moving, and you're like, that's a custom character.
Was that the one with like the long kind of wavy curly hair?
Yeah.
That was amazing.
Yeah. I was happy when Joe, I think you picked that character for the PAX kind of playthrough. She had like the long hair, so you could really see it there as well. It's really impressive.
Yeah, that was intentional. I was like, we need to show the hair physics.
The
world needs to know. Yeah.
Do you guys, because we were talking about Dragon's Dogma and character creator, the Dragon's Dogma 2 team decided to go down the route of food creation by just recording video of food.
Genius.
I forgot about that.
Genius.
Yeah, I think they were saying something like, why not just spend the money buying the meat rather than spending the money on the graphics for the food.
Yeah, you get to eat it when you do it in real life as well.
You do as well.
It's a bit harder. The coders get really annoyed if you start like chewing on their screens. So,
I think we're gonna have to see a Dragon's Dogma versus Monster Hunter Wilds food cook-off competition.
That would be good.
We just love food at Capcom. Like I don't know, like Kunitsugami has got like all the intricately crafted food. Like they made the food with like a real confectioner in real life, and then had them like 3D scan that in the game. You got Dogma where they're filming the meat, which is just like. And then they got to eat it afterwards, and then
you guys must have really good catering, right? Like at events, surely.
The sandwiches were really good. They were. The sandwiches were great.
I've learned that DCP crew needs to be invited out to the next event so we get some catering.
Yeah.
Oh man, we got
to way back with Capcom too. I mean, finding like turkeys in trash cans in Final Fight. It's a long tradition of eating well.
Some callbacks here, yeah. Kidding.
Yeah, it's a Capcom staple. The attention to detail with the food. They just love it. I love it.
I think that kind of gets to the end of my pre-set questions. So if you guys have anything you want to delve into question-wise, or that you want to bring up,
release date, or we're ready to announce?
What?
All right. I got it for you. 2025.
All right.
So I'll just start listing off days. You don't have to say anything. But just,
you gotta just be like,
do this or this.
We are really looking forward to it,
Tokyo Game Show. Because we've been tracking announcements and like beta demo dates and trailers, and it was for World it came out in January, and I think the release date as well as Nergigante was shown at Tokyo Game Show. So I'm like waiting on that Tokyo Game Show.
We need to get that Charlie Kelly from Always Sunny meme with you in it, like with all the lines kind of connected.
That's right.
I see you trying to bait us for the release date, and it's not gonna work.
No. But I am looking forward to you guys going to Tokyo Game Show. I think that's going to be really cool, because that's the first time the Japanese public are going to be able to play Wild. So looking forward to all of their thoughts.
No doubt.
Yeah.
Yeah, they've got quite the turnout expected. I think we know like Monster Hunter, has its origins in Japan. Now it's like a global series, but the Japanese community has been like really at the heart of it. And I think they have like a huge amount of stations available at TGS, which is, TGS itself is like, I still think is just like such a huge event. I went last year for Dragon's Dogma, and that was, I think, like literally wall to wall, like with people like trying to get through the alleyways. I'm like, I just want to play Rebirth.
And sort of like, it's nice because whenever we put social posts out, we see people asking for a release date and stuff. And, we like to joke about it, we can't talk about it and stuff like that. But it's genuinely humbling to see folks be like, we need this. This is so exciting. Tell us more. When can we play it? And it is testament, like the MH community are an awesome bunch. And, we do feel like they are behind us. And, and the reason we can do stuff as well, like have like the senior dev team engaging with the community at events and online with Joe posted a video earlier, obviously with the 1-word quiz on the social channel, is because the community, how they engage with us. If they're happy, they let us know. If they're not, it's mostly constructive, which is really useful because like we take that, we feed it back. It goes straight to the dev team themselves. There isn't like a middle ground. So Joe and I will do a community report or pick up on stuff, and then we have a meeting with the dev team and we found this. Here's all the common talking points, and we literally go straight to the devs. And they love the community. Like, and I know this is because I work for Capcom, and it sounds like I could be like, oh yeah, of course we love you all. But genuinely, community is at the heart of what the devs want to do. And they want to know what you're thinking and what you like in and what you might not necessarily be so keen on and why. Because we're lucky, we're privileged as community managers to have that access. And the devs are like, tell us, what are the community thinking about our latest trailer? What did they think of Gamescom and things like that, or PAX? So to any of like existing players watching, like, your replies under our tweets, or if you're on Reddit, we're lurking in the shadows, like, oh, what's going on in this thread and things like that. And it genuinely does get back to the team. Sorry to kind of get all serious community manager sentimental, but it is cool as a CM to have the devs be like, yo, tell us about the community. What can we do here? What's going on? And for them to want to engage with the community and things like that. So yeah, your feedback does get back, even if we're not in there going, thank you, yes, please, and things like that. So be nice, because you don't want to make us sad.
There's a lot of truth in there too, because we have seen it before where communication lines between devs and gamers get disrupted. They get disrupted when the community is not passionate but also polite, and so it's a really big deal to have a community that's so supportive, because that does keep those lines of communication open. You don't want the studio to sort of shut that down and be like, we no longer feel obligated or safe even interacting directly, and we need to go through these other people and CMs specifically. So I think there's a lot of value in that.
And as you said as well, like, oh sorry Joe, after you.
No, continue.
Okay, but yeah, it's safety is key as well. And say, we don't expect all the feedback to be positive. We know people might not like certain things, or they'll be like, oh, we want to know, like with focus mode, they were like, that looks cool, but we don't know enough about it. Is it an easy mode? Is it for me? And then they kind of gave us the benefit of the doubt, which I think the dev team and our predecessors worked on with World and Iceborne, to be in this kind of privileged position. But yeah, as you said as well, it's down to the community. Even when they're really frustrated or they're not happy with something, it's being constructive and not making it personal. And because that's not the case in many cases. So yeah, it's down to the community that we can have this access and we can have this kind of communication lines, as you said.
Yeah. And, it really shows, because I think with all Capcom games, like, you really get to see that feedback being taken into consideration in changes that happen to the game. It's always felt very much so like the developers know what we've been talking about, and we've kind of seen it a bit on Twitter as well. People were panicking and being like, oh, they definitely know about how we feel about Gemma, or they've definitely heard all of the Alatreon discourse and stuff. So yeah, it's always nice to see that the developers know what you're talking about, even if then you're like, oh, that's embarrassing.
Yeah. The team really values community, like Jonno was saying. I mean, we've seen like other games before too, where there can be like a difficult balance between doing those things. But I think like this team really gets it. They really understand. They really value it. They value not only the community, but also like for us to be able to try and like filter some of that feedback as well, where some things might not necessarily be, something that is actionable or something that is like representative of what the community actually wants. So we try to do our best to try and filter that stuff, which can also be a difficult job as well. And one other thing is at PAX, what was really heartening to see is the travel was pretty rough for the team to like come from Gamescom to go back to Osaka, and then there was actually a typhoon happening at the time, so it was actually difficult for them to get out of Japan and back over to Seattle. But it was something that was really, really important for them to be there and to meet the community, to see people in person, and to like have all these signing events, go to the panels, and like meet people and like just share the love for Monster Hunter. I think it was really, really valuable for them, and it was really valuable for the community. So even though they were barely there for like I think it was like 2 or 3 days, that was super, super impactful for the team. I think really energizing because they were able to bring that back for the dev team and just like keep that momentum going into the launch of the game, which we're not saying other than 2025.
Well, if you want to take some feedback to the team, I would like a Dragon's Dogma 2 creator for Monster Hunter Wilds ahead of release. Because I will be in there. 5 hours. I'll do a whole week of streams in there.
Right.
What kind of character do you make? Do you make like yourself, or do you make like something totally unique?
It starts with making myself, but I'm very bad at making them actually look like me. But luckily, because of my hair, if you throw green and pink on there, people are like, "Wow, looks exactly like you."
What somehow finds green and pink in every single game? You could spot her a mile away. Oh, there's lots.
Yeah, it's like if I've had to do like gameplay capture for some games, and if they've got a character creator, they have green and pink hair. It's like very obvious that it was me capturing it. But that's why I'm so happy about the Monster Hunter change, because I haven't been able to do that. I've had to do like I'll go pink hair and like green eyes maybe, or the other way around. So I'm actually going to be able to do that in Monster Hunter.
Right.
I think I can share this story now that we're far enough from the launch of Dragon's Dogma 2. But when our team like kind of had the first hands-on with the game, it was still in a state where it's like the character creator is not like quite complete yet, and it was all in Japanese, so we didn't even know what the settings are. So you're just going off of like color and like how things look, and what's like the most impactful. We like somehow made She-Hulk, and that ended up just being like our character for our playthrough. It just became like a thing for us like internally, where we're like, okay, like we need to recreate our team with She-Hulk, and then like a little tiny witch who was like 3 feet tall or something like that. I can't remember, 4 feet tall, I guess.
That's great.
So what I'm hearing is She-Hulk with a beard in Wilds.
Yes.
Sold.
I'm even more sold than I already was.
Right.
Did you guys have any questions you wanted to ask, or we're doing closing thoughts?
I asked all the ones I wrote down.
Yeah, I think we're good.
No, I've been well enlightened by this. This is great. It's been really good.
The one thing I wanted to ask is, because you have the Monster Hunter team being so involved with stuff, and obviously they can do whatever they want, whereas you're waiting for like the yes, you can show this or no. Was there something on the Gamescom through any of those streams or any of those stages where they showed something off the Monster Hunter team and you were like, oh, okay, I guess we're doing that now?
Yeah, so the premise, so we did 3 streams, and Tokoda-san, who is the director on Monster Hunter Wilds, was like, "Oh, Jonno, so each day, we're going to go up and play, and then when we have our little personal stream together, I'm going to show off tiny little new things that we haven't spoke about yet." He goes, you'll see kind of thing, and he kind of gave me a heads up on stuff. But then on the last day, when he showed off underwater, I had no idea that was in the game. I had no idea it was happening. So my reaction was 100% genuine. That wasn't me kind of going,
"Oh, that's fun."
Marketing. That was me going,
Wow.
what the heck? Like, what am I going to see here kind of thing? Like, so that was 100% genuine. And because he wanted to show it off, like, the team loved the game. They were like, "We're going to show this off. This will be really fun to do." And yeah, when he dived underwater, because obviously there's all the stalactites and it was like a white kind of area, I was like, this exists under the desert. And then when he dived in and started moving around in the water, I was like, what's in here? So that was a genuine surprise for me as well. And it was awesome. But yeah, that's the kind of thing the team are like, what can we do to have it fun? Like Ryozo-san, obviously, he was fishing during the hunt on stage and things like that. So it's just having fun with it. But yeah, the underwater section, and just to clarify for anyone that didn't get all of it, there's no underwater combat, but
You're probably sitting
navigate
there like,
underwater.
is he gonna start fighting something?
Yeah, I was waiting for him to swing at something. Yeah,
Right.
I was like, what's gonna pop out?
Freaking alligator monster coming for you.
Yeah. But yeah, so yeah, that was a genuine surprise for me, and especially on a Friday at Gamescom, and I think we were like 2.5 hours deep into streaming as well on the third day of streaming. I was like, what? Like, I was invigorated again.
Yeah, just a little excitement. You want to keep you on your toes, make sure you're alive.
Yeah.
That's why we had to watch it every single moment, because we're like, what are they going to show? They're going to show something. You have Yozo like zooming in to the not baby Puke Puke and showing.
Yeah. Or like the barrel bomb bowling as well and things like that. Like these little things that are like, oh, that's new.
Yeah, there was so many details. It felt like E3 for all games, but it was just Monster Hunter, and you're trying to piece together like, what did they show? Okay, wait, what does that mean? Well, I think that is going to bring us to the end. If you guys have any, Jonno and Joe, if you have any closing statements of things you want to say to the community or about the game, feel free to.
Yeah. Thanks so much for having us. It's been great being on. It's been great like hanging out with all you guys. We love the excitement for the game. And yeah, it's been a real busy time for the Capcom team. Not just like on Monster Hunter, but all the games. So we love seeing all the feedback and all the love. So yeah, we're hanging in there, and we're super excited for what's coming next. And
not much longer,
yeah,
right?
Thanks again.
It's nearly the end of the year. To be fair, we're in mid-September, so we're getting close to 2025.
There's 12 whole months in that year, though.
No, you're not
Could
allowed
be
to
any
do
one
that.
of them.
We're giving you till March at the latest, and then we're writing letters.
We revolt.
Banging on the door. But like as well, thank you to echo Joe. Thank you so much for inviting us on. It's definitely a privilege to be here with you all, and thank you for inviting us to talk with yourselves and sharing that with your community. And on the MH side, me and Joe have been playing it for over a decade now, I think. And gates open, come in really. If you like loot, you like grinding, you like boss fights and things like that, check it out. There's some wonderful content creators here that have probably got some Monster Hunter content you could check out as well. But yeah, so thank you so much for having us. It's genuinely been wonderful. So thank you.
No, thank you guys so much for coming on. There's so many different schedules. I really appreciate you being able to take time out of your day or your evening to come and talk to us. So thank you guys so much. This was really fun.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you guys so much for joining us. Keep tuned for more information about Monster Hunter, because sure we'll be delving into every little detail. And we will see you next time.
Bye.
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 Bye.